outside right now. Hope y'all can hear me. If not, I'll just have to run it back. But I was led to come outside and share this with y'all. So happy Friday. Ain't God good? God is amazing, right? So I wanted to share with you what God spoke to me yesterday. Okay, so let's go to 2nd Samuel. Okay. Just one moment. Let me get it pulled up here. Okay. All right. I'm finding it. I'm finding it. There we go. Okay, so, all right. So let's start at 2nd Samuel 24:11. It says, before David got up the next morning, the word of the Father had come to Gad, the prophet, David's seer. Go and tell David, this is what the Father says. I am giving you three options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against you. So Gad went to David and said to him, shall there come on you 3 years of famine? And then it says in Hebrew, that's translated to 7. So 7 years of famine in your land, or 3 months of fleeing from your enemies while they pursue you, or 3 days of plague in your land. Now then, think it over and decide how I should answer the one who sent me. I'm having a hard time concentrating right now. I'm having a hard time concentrating right now. All right, let's go somewhere else for a minute. Let's just start this over. Okay. I just want to start by saying that sometimes the very thing that we feel is holding us back is actually the one thing trying to propel us forward. Sometimes in one season, the enemy looks just like that, the adversary. You know what I'm saying? In another season, you'll be thanking them. You'll be thanking them for the tests, for the fact that they strengthened you, the fact that they made you better, you know? And that's pretty much what this reading is about. So, I said just go with the notes. Okay. So, the father sent Gad as a messenger to David, right? And it says before David got up the next morning, the word of the Father had come to Gad the prophet, David's seer. Go and tell David, this is what the Father says. I am giving you three options. Choose one of them for me to carry out against thee. Famine for 3 years, 3 months of fleeing from the enemy, or 3 days of plague. And then it says in Hebrew, 3 years is translated to 7. So it may have been 7 years. And then it says on the notes, it said, see 1 Chronicles 21:12. Now this is the same thing, but in a different way. It says Satan rose up against, 1 Chronicles 21 and 1 says, Satan rose up against Israel and incited David to take a census of Israel. Now on the notes, now this is about the same story, right? So basically, David took a census of how many men he had to fight in his land. And in 2nd Samuel, it says that it was God who basically did this. But in 1 Chronicles, it says it was Satan that did it. Now on the notes, it says the personal being Satan, lowercase s, is not necessarily alive or in sight here. It says the term Satan transliterates the Hebrew term meaning adversary or accuser, with lowercase indicating a general enemy, opponent, or adversary. It says, while capital S represents the adversary, the devil. It says the adversary was a descendant of Rapha. Now, that's who David was coming up against. Now, Rapha means to heal, cure, or restore. And it says the Hebrew root, the direct translation of the verb Rapha, is to make healthy, mend, or repair. Isn't that good? Okay, so what is the connection here? So basically, after David had repented and, God decided on God had decided on 3 days of a plague or whatever. So he was going to go to Aronia to basically, pay for the repentance or whatever for his people. But it said he saw the angel stretch his hands out, getting ready to destroy Israel. I believe it was the angel Raphael. Because again, it says his adversary was Rapha, right? But he wasn't seeing the fact that his adversary was God. And so sometimes the adversary, the enemy, is healing. The enemy is there to restore. The enemy is there to cure us. But we want to stay in dysfunction because we are disconnected, because we are hurting, because we are in pain, because we like coping, we like smoking weed, we like drinking, we like having sex, we like doing all of the things. So the healing, the restoration, you know what I'm saying? Those things is like, I don't want it. And you're fighting the cure. So it says Rapha is often a short form of the name Raphael, which combines Rapha to heal and El, God, to mean God heals. And so God says, speak Jehovah Rapha. And it says believers use this name to mean God in all things is a source of physical conduct, emotional restoration, and spiritual healing. And then God said, study to show myself, yourself approved, which comes from Timothy chapter 2, verse 15. And when I went, and some said go online, look at the King James Version, because, different versions of the Bible have different words and different things that will speak to you. And it says, verse 15, 2 Timothy chapter 2 says, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly divide the word of truth. And then instead of a workman, I heard God say woman instead, or Andromeda say woman instead, and I'll explain that a little later. I'm gonna probably have to do this over because there's a lot of distractions. But I was led to come outside, so I feel like God was getting me to see sometimes that, you got to do it regardless of the distractions. You got to go where God's telling you to go. And, when you get closer to God, the more that you get free from the enemy's hands, you realize you're not really free. Because then you have a choice to either follow what God says or don't. But if you don't do it, then you'll feel bad. You gotta laugh to keep from crying sometimes. So yeah, that's what I got for you right now. I'm probably gonna do it over. I'm gonna do it more in detail. But moving right along here, let's go right on into the next thing. So I wanted to talk about Andromeda. And it's kind of funny because it's kind of one and the same, because Andromeda is also like the Andromeda Galaxy. So it says Andromeda was the daughter of the king and queen of Ethiopia, with an A in front of, which ancient Greeks located at the edge of the world in Nubia, the land south of Egypt. It says the term Ethiops was applied to peoples who dwelt above the equator, between the Atlantic and Indian Oceans. Homer says the Ethiopians live at the world's end and lie in two halves, the one looking west and the other east. Says the 5th century BC historian Herodotus writes, where south inclines westward, the part of the world stretching furthest towards the sunset is Ethiopia, and includes a plan by Cambyses II of Persia to invade Ethiopia, or Kush. Okay, so Andromeda was the daughter of Cassiopeia and Cephas, and I believe that Andromeda is a direct descendant of the original woman and man. And I believe that the original woman was a green woman and that the original man was a red man. And I have to pull it up a little later. But their child in Egypt, they have a picture, and I think they got it backwards, or I think it was a story rewritten. So there is a red woman and there is a green man, and they produce a blue child, the blue lotus. Now, what do they say when you are really, really dark? They say you're so black, you're blue, correct? So that means that the original man, you know, Adam, whatever, was a black child. And I believe basically that Andromeda would basically be like a descendant of whom that person would be assumed as Adam. Again, you're so black, you are blue. Now, her father, Cepheus, was also blue when you look him up. So, I gotta, and then it says that when they died, God put them in the sky as a star. So that's why you have Andromeda as a constellation, and then you have the Andromeda galaxy. I believe that's where God is. I believe, yeah, I believe that is where God is, in the Andromeda galaxy. Just waiting, looking upon us, comes and goes as they please. And so some has stood out about the Centaurus, because I seen a Centaurus, right, when I was looking at the constellations. And it's funny because it says Andromeda is nowhere near Centaurus. It says Andromeda sits far to the north at roughly plus 40 declination, while Centaurus is located far to the south at roughly negative 40 declination. And you know how they say as above, so below. And I had a dream a long while ago where I had seen like a centaur like type woman or whatever, like this horse, you know what I'm saying, type of woman or whatever. But something about that was interesting. Then I seen something about Musca, and Musca, it says, is a small southern constellation positioned directly beneath the cruce, or the crucifix. And Musca, in abbreviation, says the fly. Now the cruce is the Southern Cross. It says the smallest of all 88 modern constellations, containing bright navigational stars like Acrux and Mimosa, and overlapping the Milky Way. That might be important to somebody. It says Carina, Centaurus, and Circinus, surrounding regions of the southern sky rich in dense star fields and galactic dust lanes. And let's see what this says. Okay, that's more. All right. Okay, so I have a few pictures here. Now they had said this, y'all not gonna be able to see this for real. Nope, you're not gonna be able to see it out here. But they had said that this was like supposed to be a picture of Cadmus. You can look this up though. You can look this up on who Andromeda is. And all of these things. Let me see. Can y'all see that? Right there. That's like a white version, right? But all pictures, like the earliest depictions BC, depicts her as this black woman. I cannot pull it up. Anyway, she's a daughter. She's a daughter of the Ethiopian king and queen. She was dark. She was a dark woman. She's a black woman. And again, I believe that as different people, we have different gods. And I believe that's why in the Bible it says we are supposed to be fisher of men. Because the more that we elevate, the more that we find peace, that we find enlightenment, is the more that you convince people to want to have the same God as you. So part of it in your waking life is a choice. But in your subconscious life, it's just what you come from. You know what I'm saying? You're doing a great job. So am I. You know, the best we can to be fisher of men or women. So yeah, that's all I got for you out here. So I'm finna go back in. Love you. Peace.